Hello there. My name is George Kasagula, and I welcome you all to this week's edition of the Couldron. This is the program which puts together a panel of editors to analyze the issues affecting us. We look at the national issue, also look at an international issue, as well as also take time to go to the newsroom, to go to issues in the media and discuss them. Initially, the program had indeed a panel because we used to have 3 editors plus me as host and 4. But because of COVID-19, we've had to reduce. At first, we reduced to 3 of us, and today, as you can see, it's just me and my colleague Brian Ligomeka. Brian is the usual on this program. He is first of all former managing editor of this company, this media house, but now he's also an executive director of Center for Solution Journalism. Brian, welcome.
Thank you.
Yes. Let's go straight into it. As in segment 1, President Lazarus Chakwera continues to deal with the rot of allowances, bad procurement, and expensive employment contracts in government. Recently he has appointed a task force headed by Vice President Saulos Chilima to look into these issues and give recommendations on the way forward. Brian, all this is coming about because of how the public service has handled the 6.2 billion that was meant to go towards efforts to beat COVID-19, but it appears most of it went into people's pockets in the form of allowances, and as we speak, heads have rolled. Is this a golden opportunity for this government to deal with this issue that the public is against once and for all?
It's an opportunity, yes.
Yes.
That the issue of allowances should be sorted out.
Yes.
But maybe first things first.
Yes, please.
These allowances will continue to be disbursed.
Yes, certainly.
Certainly.
Yes.
Because allowances are the type of funds or money that is given to an employee when he or she is on official business.
Outside duty station.
Outside duty station.
Yes.
So when you are conducting official business, you will need money for travel.
Yes.
You will need money for accommodation, meals.
You need to eat.
You need to eat. If you are using a personal vehicle,
yes,
sometimes there is a small refund for that.
A bit of compensation.
Yes, and you need money for incidentals. So long as employees of government ministries and organizations are able to travel to other duty stations, they will continue claiming money in form of what we call daily subsistence allowance.
Exactly.
Or pay DMs.
Exactly.
Money that you can use for the sort of things that I've mentioned.
Yes.
And it is also important for us to realize that allowances have some benefits. They are not just as bad as we speak. They actually assist employees to easily meet work-related expenses, as I've said. In some cases, allowances will even motivate others to attend training or meetings, participate fully, because they know that at the end of the day, all their travel and their accommodation expenses will be refunded to them. To some, even allowances are some form of an incentive. There are people who receive low salaries, and when they get that small allowance of whether 30,000 or 60,000 for accommodation, they will go and look for a cheaper place to save for their families. So there are even some benefits for these allowances. But in Malawi,
I was waiting for your advice.
Yes,
because we have a problem
in Malawi
where they have been abused, where people go to meetings to deal with something, to thrash out things so that those things should be implemented. In this case, the allowances have been an end in itself.
Yes, yes.
That's the problem. That
in Malawi, the allowances are now a problem.
Yes.
Yes. Despite the benefits I've mentioned earlier,
yes,
allowances are abused massively in Malawi. We have people who work for an organization or a government ministry would move from Lilongwe to Mangochi for a half-day workshop. just to pocket the much needed allowance. So people create unnecessary field trips just for the sake of allowances. In some cases, there have been even poor delegation. You might imagine that there's a training for a basic training in journalism for reporters.
Yes.
You find the whole managing editor or
editor in chief
or editor in chief.
But I don't do that, Mr.
I know you don't do that. But we have heard of scenarios in the government where the whole directors would go to workshops
for something that is for a technical person.
For a technical person,
yes.
or for a junior.
Yes.
So in Malawi, allowances would even slow down the government operations. Members of the public would go to Capitol Hill to seek services and find that offices are empty.
Yes, there's nobody.
Because people have traveled down to Mponera or Salima to attend training, but the hidden agenda being to get the marginal allowance. So actually in Malawi, the allowance syndrome has even created corruption and fraud.
Yes.
Because there have even been instances where people will be in the offices but still pocket the allowance. Our organization was conducting a training workshop.
A center for social journalism.
In Zomba.
Yes.
And one of the junior officers kept on pressuring our council assistants to give him an allowance for his boss. But the boss was
at the office.
Yes. And we were arguing that this allowance is to meet your transport and
to come here
and meal costs. But look here.
Your boss is not here.
Your boss is not here. He hasn't incurred any transport expense. Why should we be refunded?
Exactly.
And he said the boss might snatch the allowance that has been paid to me.
Oh my God.
So, I mean, the allowance culture in Malawi has created even perpetuation of fraud.
So, Brian, you put it so well. Malawians are angered with what you're saying, to say the allowance culture has now turned to something else. Malawians are very, very angry, and they are putting pressure on their government to change this allowance culture. Do you think Dr. Lazarus Chakwera, the president, is going to do this? What does that take in terms of his own even political survival for him to if at all? We're going to talk about the task force that he has put in place. But him as the leader, does he have enough courage to change this?
He has enough courage,
yes.
and the political will he has demonstrated, and even the practical actions that he has taken by empowering his own vice to look after this shows the commitment of government to deal with this issue of corruption in form of allowances decisively.
It won't make him lose votes come 2025.
Come on, there are about 200 civil servants in Malawi, and most of the people who benefit are not even over 20,000.
Yes.
A lot of teachers who are in the rural areas who make the bulk of civil servants don't benefit from that type of corruption. So
you mean he has nothing to fear politically?
No, he has nothing to fear.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Let's go to the task force itself. Malawians have come to realize that task forces that come in various forms, others are called commission of inquiries and what have you, are a waste of time, because when they meet, they do recommendations, nothing happens on the recommendations. Why should this task force be different? It has been given 3 months. Do you think they are going to deal with it? By the way, it's not just allowances. There is the issue of procurement.
Yes.
There is the issue of expensive contracts in government. They have been given those 3 issues to deal with. Do you think they are going to take that, demon or demons and deal with them and then remove them from the system so that the Malawians are happy?
It's a process.
Yes.
It requires mindset change.
Yes.
But the good thing is that I think the one in charge is a bulldozer.
Yes.
Vice President Saulos Chilima, I mean, is good at planning and implementing and even monitoring. Sometimes he even goes down to the ground.
Reforms are going nowhere. Do you think things are happening in terms of reforms that he has headed for now many years? He also did it during the DPP time, because he was removed because some people felt he was becoming more famous than them.
Things are going in the right direction. Let us not be pessimistic.
Okay.
Look, we are openly talking about the 6 billion which has been eaten or chewed.
Yes.
Why are we talking about it? It means that we are starting to embrace those reforms. long time ago in the past, that money would have been eaten without trace. That money would have been diverted into allowances without even discussion of this kind. So in my view, we are going in the right direction. You plan, you talk about it, and you start implementing. Then you monitor.
3 months. They have been given 3 months. Is that enough?
Yeah, that's enough. Because we have had so many reforms, and most of these issues have been tackled on several occasions. The problem, as you have said, is now to try to move from planning to implementation stage. Yeah,
there are eminent members of society in that that's first Professor Nyovani Madise. There's Dr. Ngei Ganyongolo. There's Dr. Chingaipe. Some retired but very very senior former civil servants. Of course, the Vice President himself. Looking at them, are they up to this gargantuan task?
I believe they will deliver the desired fruits. I believe so. I trust in them. Most of them have impeccable and reputable track records, which we cannot even doubt.
The anger of Malawians against allowances, is it genuine anger? Or it's a question of saying you are eating, we are not eating? Is it genuine anger? Do you really see that Malawians want to, because you're looking at money here. The argument is you are wasting money on allowances, money that could have gone to the wards to deal with COVID-19. It's not just COVID-19. It's about any other thing. When you spend more money on allowances, suddenly the roads will be bad, there won't be medicines in hospital, and etc., etc., etc. Do you think Malawians, it's a question of saying we want better things for ourselves, or something else?
It's genuine anger.
It's genuine anger. Malawians really want change.
Look here.
Yes.
People have been dying due to COVID,
yes,
due to lack of oxygen cylinders,
exactly,
and what
and have some other little things.
And the hospitals have been crying foul that they have no medical equipment, drugs to handle COVID. Yet billions, millions were pumped into the system to deal with that.
Yes.
So for every right-thinking Malawian, it is important to get angry that after government allocated the resources, those resources have been abused. But we should also point some blame at the top leadership there, in the sense that we don't just dump money in the clusters or in the ministries. What was the criteria used to give that much money to various clusters and ministries? I mean, in terms of program or project implementation, first of all, you need to have a work plan. In the work plan, you will outline activities and the necessary things that will ensure that you attain your goal. Then those activities are budgeted for. So if the Chirazulu District Hospital is asking for 60 million, it should clearly state in its plan what that 60 million will do,
exactly,
what they will buy, and how that money will be accounted for, and who will be responsible for that money. So even when auditors come, they will say, where is your budget? Where is your work plan? What did you promise you will do? But if you just take 80 million and pass it to a district council without a work plan, without a list of activities, without the necessary equipment, I mean, what do those people do?
Exactly.
They use that money as allowance.
Exactly.
So even now, 17 billion has been given.
Yes, people are talking
about on what basis?
What is it? Okay, there's 5 billion to Ministry of Education. They're saying they want to build quick school blocks or something like that. Anyway, clearly the leadership, top leadership, the president, the vice president, the ministers are getting the heat, are getting the anger from the public. Do you think this anger is permeating down to the common civil servants, the ones that do this? Are they realizing that the Malawian that they are serving today is different from the ones that they were serving probably 20 years ago, and they should change their ways? Do you think it's getting to them, the heat?
Somebody said that our civil service is an organized syndicate,
crime syndicate.
a syndicate of criminals.
That was pretty strong, isn't it?
Yeah, it was very, very strong. We should look at at it in that way. It's a rotten system.
Yes.
It's a system which needs a revamp.
Yes.
Actually, the vice president and his task force has a lot to do.
A lot of work, yes. A mammoth task.
A mammoth task. Because the system needs cleaning up and even motivating to deliver. Look here. When you have a graduate who is receiving 200,000 in the civil service, and somebody, a fellow graduate is receiving 800,000 in the private sector, something is wrong.
Exactly.
So besides just looking at allowances, let that task force look at the salary structure
yes.
within the civil service.
Yes.
Because one of the things that forces the civil servants to abandon their workstations and go for the so-called workshops is that they are poorly paid. That's a fact. So to address issues of allowances on one hand, you also need to look at the remuneration package of the civil servants.
Yes. The task force that has been set up by the president and headed by the vice president certainly has a mammoth task to deal with these issues in government. The issue of allowances, then the bad procurement, as well as the employment contracts. Some very expensive, some very difficult for government to get out. You're watching the Couldron on Times TV. We'll take a break. When we come back, we'll continue in segment 1, dealing with the same issue. This time, it is about teachers. This week, they were up in arms. They are also demanding allowances. Don't go away. The program is the Couldron, and this is the Times TV or TTV, if you want an abbreviated kind of name. My name is Zodiak, and I'm joined by Brandon Gomeka. We are discussing the issue of allowances, the issue of bad procurement, as well as the issue of sometimes the expensive contracts in government. Brian, the other issue this week that was also very, very prominent is the teachers. Teachers, schools opened this week on Monday after a closure of about 4 weeks due to COVID-19. The figures are dropping, so the authorities, the task force plus the president, thought that we have punished our children enough. They must go back to class and start learning. So they made a decision that Monday schools should open. Unfortunately, the schools didn't open as well as they should have, because the teachers went on a sit-in, kind of slow, demanding allowances, the same allowances that citizens are against, saying they deserve risk allowance because they will be teaching children, and probably some of the children might have COVID. It gives a deep sense of deja vu that probably those that are speaking against the charge of allowances are speaking to themselves. Do teachers deserve their allowances? Just like health workers.
Oh, yeah, what a question. Teachers, we need to understand.
Yes.
Who are the front line workers in the fight against COVID?
That's right.
And in my view, the front line workers in the fight against COVID are those people who come in contact with people
that have
yes, with people who have been diagnosed COVID positive.
Yes.
With the patients.
Yes.
Those are the frontline workers.
Yes.
They cannot even practice social distance.
Yes.
Because they have to examine, test, and treat the patients. Do teachers do that? No. Teachers can observe social distance with their students. But doctors cannot say, I will stand 2 meters away from the patient. That's why the medical workers are the front line workers. They are facing the highest risk.
So they deserve what they're getting.
And they deserve what they are getting.
The teachers themselves are very, very vicious. And probably it's just an understatement. They are very, very angry. They are saying they deserve the money. Anybody who is speaking against that, they are going on attack. Putting them on their own Facebook, platforms and start castigating them. I suffered that myself. Then this week, Ali Ponje suffered that. Then Wanda Msisa too suffered that. you might also suffer the same fate. Is that right? Is that the way they should be behaving? Is that they should attack anybody who because what you are saying is very true.
On a light note, I shouldn't suffer the same fate. I'm also a teacher. I do lecture some students.
You do?
Yeah, I do.
But your colleagues are very vicious and they, very angry that they deserve the money.
Anyway, the issue is, although teachers do not come in direct contact with patients, but they still face the risk. So there is high risk medical workers.
Yes.
You have mid or average risk, the teachers. Then you have low risk, those people who do not mingle with others in groups. Those are at low risk. So people who are found in groups, like in groups of students, in this case, are facing what can be generally called as middle risk or even low risk. Because they are facing middle risk, teachers deserve allowance of some sort, but not what they are proposing, in my view. In my opinion, teachers deserve maybe a once-off payment of allowances. So that they can use that money, say 30,000 or 50,000 kwacha, once off a year, so that they can use money for buying PPEs, the face masks, the sanitizers, the face shields, the protective gear, because they are in constant touch with the pupils.
By the time we are recording this program, government had not capitulated that they are going to give allowances to teachers. But in an event that government does, what impact is going to have? Because you are talking of police too, can say we are a risk. Immigration, not only immigration, even MRA, collecting tax in border posts. They would say they are meeting people. What sort of floodgates can this open for government? That doesn't have money, it's almost broke.
I do not look at that as floodgates anyway. If government can follow what I'm proposing here, that a one-off payment of say 30,000 or 50,000
to buy masks
to civil servants to buy PPEs for the whole year, I think that's manageable. Look here, 6 billion cannot be accounted for. There's now 17 billion which is also being shared by various clusters.
Shared around
by various clusters.
Yes.
Part of that money, I mean, how much is 30,000? How much is 50,000? Each civil servant can be paid that money.
For PPEs?
For PPEs,
yes.
So, because in some schools, I know of an educational official who was given money to buy the PPEs for a particular zone, masks and sanitizers for school. He has ended up building a house at his wife's place. So, if officials are abusing money in that way, millions, why don't you say, okay, you guys, we are going to give you money for PPEs, and you are going to use those PPEs for 1 year.
Exactly.
So, in my view, the teachers are justified. Because
for PPEs.
For PPEs, yes. Because a lot of money is allocated for this, and that money is being eaten, chewed, abused, and misused by district education managers.
So teachers want to have their share of the cake. They also want to dip into the
Should we call it a cake? These are for protective gears. I mean, it's not a cake they will enjoy.
At the end of the day, we've already spoken about this brand. Malawians are sick and tired of this culture of allowances. They are sick and tired of their taxi kwajas being stolen. Hence the insistence that whatever is there, government must account for it. How crucial is that? How crucial that the Malawians must not close their eyes, but they must, talk about the expenditure in government.
We need to monitor. We need to talk about it. We even need to report the thieves, suspected thieves, and it's the court which can declare somebody.
Well, but as long as we don't attach names, we can call them thieves.
The thieves to authorities and prosecuting agencies like ACB. We need to be vigilant at all times.
Just as a devil's advocate, Brian, What is so difficult in government in terms of accounting the money? We saw how this private initiative, Malawians were contributing to it, and they were accounting. They were giving every little tambara they were accounting. What's so difficult in doing that in government? Is it because of bureaucracy? Is it because it's huge?
Corruption is entrenched.
Yes.
That's the reason.
It is doable.
We have talked much about allowances, and this is only 1 billion that went to councils. That's what we have been talking. We haven't talked about the other 5 billion which went to procurement. And if we dig deeper, you will find briefcase companies
formed by probably
allies of politicians being given money to supply oxygen cylinders in the hospitals. And that's why there are no oxygen cylinders in the hospital.
Olomatics.
Yeah. If we can dig deeper, okay, we have talked about the 1 billion allowances. If we can dig deeper into the remaining 5 billion, we will be shocked.
So the issue of bureaucracy is just an excuse for
it's
these
just
thieves.
an excuse.
For the thieves to
I mean, those private citizens handled about
2 million, 200 million. Or thereabouts, yes.
Some councils were being given 90 million.
Yes.
Why are they, and they have accounts officers?
Yes, certainly.
Why are they failing to account for 80 million?
Is to hide.
When the private citizens who are located some in Switzerland, some in Malawi, some
in
elsewhere,
UK,
managed to account for every coin that they received.
Finally, from where do we go from here? And has the president delivered on this matter so far? Or there are areas that he must improve and push on?
I mean, what the task force will come up with should be implemented.
Yes.
In Malawi, we have this problem of drafting and coming up with
reports,
reports,
documents,
beautiful policies, beautiful documents. But when it comes to implementation, it's 0 out of 100 or 10 out of 100. So let's hope that the recommendations which will come will actually be implemented. Because the problem is when you have an entrenched system of corruption, you will hear that some government officials actually are given fuel, 2,000 liters of fuel.
Yes.
What the hell is that?
How do you use 2,000 liters of fuel? For what?
For what?
Where are you going to travel? Is this small Malawi?
Are you going to be putting full tank every day? So it's those things that the vice president and his task force should look
must
into.
deal with. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. They clearly, the task force has a lot of work to do, and we can only wish it well. In 3 months' time, we'll be there, hopefully, and then we're going to ask it to say what is it that you've done, the recommendations, and then we'll check whether the recommendations have been, implemented. There, then we end the first segment of the program. We'll take another short break. When we come back, we're going to move to the U.S., where they have reached a milestone that the president of that country, Joe Biden, doesn't like, because 5,000 COVID-related deaths have occurred in that country, the highest in the world. And we'll go to take a look at that and what it means. Don't go away. It's about time. This is the Couldron, and I'm your host, George Kasapu. I'm joined by Brian Ligomega, and we just finished discussing, the issue of allowances in the first segment. We are now in the second segment, and it's about the U.S. mourning its dead. President Joe Biden of that country this week addressed the nation as the U.S. passed the figure of 500 million COVID-related deaths, the highest number of any country. Brian, just infections, 28.1 million, also a global record. This disease is no child play. It's really wreaking havoc. 500 million is not a small number. In fact, they are saying it's more than the people that died in First World War, Second World War, even in Vietnam.
It's tragic. But one of the things is that the initial response to any pandemic plays a crucial.
It's important.
It's important.
It sets the tone.
It sets the tone, yes. And the initial response of the U.S. government was not that robust.
Was there denial by the former president?
Yeah, the former president would go without wearing masks. He wouldn't encourage to wear masks.
Not setting
he
an
was
example.
Against lockdowns. He played down the pandemic, not knowing that it will
dangerous.
Yeah, it's dangerous. It will spill over, and now almost 500,000 people have died. So that initial countries which had robust responses, South Korea, China,
yes,
Japan,
yes,
indeed they might be struggling with the pandemic,
but they managed to contain it.
But they managed to contain it.
Yes,
yeah.
Reminds us of our own situation. People might be wondering, what about us? It's about 1,000 now, people that have died. Again, that is too high for our small country. America, you're talking of 300 million people. Here, you were talking about 17, 18. 1,000 is way too high.
We suffer from the same poor response. There was a time when the people traveled all the way from Johannesburg to Malawi. You put them at the stadium. Everybody went home before their
mingle in townships.
Yes, before their testing results were out.
Yes,
I mean.
Some came, they were burning things at Mabanga.
Yeah, so that poor response management. Also, most of our cases were imported.
Yes.
So.
Lately, we have seen that the figures are going down. A gleam of hope, probably. The figures are both in terms of fatalities, even in terms of infections. We've been able to demonstrate with the graphs it's indeed going down. A bit of hope. Then we are talking about the vaccine that the end of this month, beginning March, some people will get vaccinations. A gleam of hope.
Yeah, we should be hopeful because countries which are using the vaccines, their figures are going down.
Are going down in the UK, for example.
Even in the US, although we have reached this peak.
Yes.
But in terms of transmission rates, their figures have started declining. So there is hope.
You talked about Donald Trump, the initial response not being good. Joe Biden is there now. His approach is different. We have neighbors, for example, Tanzania. We're hearing a lot of reports that probably their initial response was not robust. The president didn't give a good example. John Magufuli. How crucial is the behavior of the leader in dealing with the pandemics, even other pandemics apart from COVID?
The behavior, the statements, the utterances of the leader are very important. Look, by now over 60 million Americans have been vaccinated.
Yes.
And maybe within the 100 days that he promised, over 100 million Americans will be vaccinated.
He's doing 1.7 million per day.
Per day.
Yes.
So, I mean, the leader needed to set the tone. When the vaccine will arrive in Malawi, let the president and the vice president and cabinet minister take the first jab and demonstrate it to Malawians.
And do it on TV.
Yeah, do it on TV.
Do it on TV, live. So that the Malawians should say, they have taken it, we need to take it as well.
Yes.
Yes. There then, we end the second segment of the program, and we're looking at obviously the global pandemic COVID-19, but looked at it in the context of the international scene, especially in America, where 500 million have died. They were not celebrating. They were talking about that milestone this week, and the president there, Joe Biden, said it's a bad milestone. We'll take a final break, and when we come back, we'll move on to the third segment of the program, and we'll go to talk about how to report corruption-related stories in the media. Are we doing it right? Are we doing it wrong? Where are we doing it wrong? And how can we improve? Don't go away. Welcome back. This is the Couldron, and you are now in the newsroom, our third segment. The Anti-Corruption Bureau is not happy with how some journalists report corruption-related stories, especially matters that are under investigation, arguing that such reporting disturbs the flow of the investigations themselves. Brian, SAB Senior Public Relations Officer, Egrid Ndara, was speaking, I think, last week in the North, that journalists should report cases under investigations factually as they shape opinions. She has a point, isn't it?
She has a point. But it's also important for her and her colleagues to know that the media on its own can initiate its own investigations.
On corruption.
On corruption.
Yes.
And when the media are investigating corruption, their aim is to expose that corruption and even enhance justice to those for those who are abusing. Accountability.
Transparency.
So there are times when the media is investigating a story on corruption and SCB is also investigating something for their prosecution. Do they talk to each other? No.
They don't.
Should
they talk to each other?
Should they talk to each other? No. Because sometimes you can compromise what each other is doing.
Exactly.
So those problems are bound to come. But it's important that each, the media and even the SCB should do their work professionally, where it is feasible. Yeah.
The issue here, Brian, is that an investigation is an investigation. It can go either way. They can investigate and find out that you didn't do the thing that somebody was accusing you of doing. They can investigate and indeed find out that they need to take you to court. They want the media to differentiate, to say this is an investigation. Is that difficult to do?
It's not difficult to do. Actually, there are some ways that you use. Suspects, alleged, it is being claimed. Yes. So it's easy to report an investigation as an investigation without concluding that if 5 billion has been abused for COVID, just report that 5 billion has been abused for COVID.
Yes.
But you cannot pinpoint at somebody before the court has declared that they are responsible for the abuse.
I think it's also the issue of the power that journalists have in shaping public opinion. That probably, although you would go to say Mr. Bradley Gomega has been arrested allegedly because of ABCD, people that are going to read that will still think, so that guy is corrupt, even before the court pronounces you that you are guilty. How crucial, how responsible must we be in exercising this power to shape people's public opinion?
The language we use, but facts are facts. If I'm arrested, I'm arrested.
Yes.
Whether I will be found guilty or not. But if I'm arrested, the media can report that I've been arrested. But the media should desist reporting that I'm a criminal or I'm a fraudster before.
You're just being accused of being a criminal.
I'm just being accused. So the most important thing that the media should do is to separate facts from opinions.
Yes.
A fact is that I've been arrested, if I'm arrested. An opinion creeps in if you, before the court pronounces me a criminal, if a journalist then reports that I'm a criminal.
How dangerous is that?
It's defamation. The media house can be sued.
And pay millions.
And pay millions, yes.
Do we need help as a media? Do we need help? SCB, actually, Mrs. Ndala was speaking in room, I think it was some kind of training. They were even, taking through the journalists that turned up in Corrupt Practices Act 1998. Is that what we need to understand the issues?
Yes, we need to continue learning.
Yes.
The world is changing. We need to continue learning. We need to continue honing our skills so that we can report better.
Journalists are supposed to report on anything. How tough is that?
Journalists are supposed to specialize on what they report on so that they do not make mistakes.
But they want us to report in agriculture, health, and what?
It's unfortunate that the small and poor newsrooms will let a journalist report on anything. And when they are doing that, the journalist will make mistakes.
So we need specialization.
We need specializations.
So probably to encourage SCB what it is doing, but probably also encourage others. There's the PPDA, they deal with procurement.
Yes, there are so many others.
And so many others.
Financial Intelligence Unit, Ombudsman,
and the rest of them.
They need to partner with media houses
so that we get to know what they're doing, and then we report it better. On that note, I'm afraid it's where we end this week's edition of the Couldron. And many thanks to Brian for turning up to help me discuss all these issues that we've been discussing in this program. As usual, you're with me, George Kasabo. Let me thank William Kumwembe for hosting last week's program when I could not host it myself. My other thanks will go to Lasten Kukani and the team in the final control center for recording the program. My other thanks should also go to Sarah Jola for helping me produce the program. From everyone here, it's a goodbye, and please let's stay safe from COVID-19.
Moi,